think we're just about ready. Yep, I think we got everything. Cool. Let's do a live stream. Let's fly back to Zurich. All right, let's see if this works. Beautiful. So far, so good. Turn this off. There we go. I'm going to turn this off and hop right in here. There we are. All right, and we do have stats up in the corner. I'm going to leave those on for the stream until I figure out what caused that crash the other day. I'm going to leave that on. So, all right, we are back in Nice. Man, it was sunny. When I fired this up a few minutes ago, it was sunny, and it got really, really cloudy. We're using, is it Active Sky? Yeah, we're using a weather add-on, but all right, here we are in Nice. And I didn't know this. I didn't buy this or anything. This came with base game, but Nice Côte d'Azur Airport is the upgraded, some of the upgraded scenery for X-Plane 11. This comes with just base game when you buy it. It's not an add-on. You can get add-on airports. This ain't one of them. This is an add-on aircraft. Let's start again. We've only been going a minute. Let's start again. This is an add-on aircraft. This is the Zibo 737, and then I built a skin for it. And there's a base game 737. I guess this is an expansion of that, and it really adds a lot to it. So hop inside and get started. And I'll try to tell you about some of this stuff as I'm working through it. Some of it I know. A lot of it, I guess I know. But there's a ways to go. All right, so first things first. We're going to turn on power, main power for the aircraft right there.
Côte d'Azur information, Charlie.
Let's get rid of that.
1500 Zulu weather.
Don't need that at the moment. So we'll get that going first, and let us get on the radio here and call for a power cart. Fried, how you doing? I always say my man when I see you. Is that appropriate? Is that an okay thing to say? I don't, it's 2020. I want to be sensitive to these things. I'm just used to saying, how you doing, my man? But if that is not what you would prefer, do let me know. All right, so we're going to get on the ground power bus like that, and that adds some additional power to the aircraft. And that cart, if you're not familiar with what I mean when I say the APU, that is this little thing right here. It's just a generator, basically, that plugs into the aircraft and gives us power until we start up the APU. And then after the APU is rolling, we will push back, and then we'll start the main engines. So for now, we're getting our power from this little thing right here. That is okay? All right, cool. I try to be sensitive to these things. Try to be a good citizen. So the first thing we're going to do is go way up top. So this is the overhead right here. And then there's another overhead above it. And I've got some cameras built so that we can go up here and I'm not twisting my neck all around with track IR. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get these IRSs aligning. And those take a little while to get going. About 7 minutes for that. So we'll do some other things while that's all getting started. And I don't think we need any interior light at the moment. So we'll go back here. What do we want to do? Let's do fuel and payload first. Now this tablet, this is AbiTab, I believe. And this is not included in the base game 737. I got this with the Zibo mod. So it's got a lot of extra stuff in it. And one of the things that it has is this panel right here. So for payload, we are going to say we want, right down here, 125 passengers, right? And it will spread them out throughout the aircraft. And then we're going to take 1,000 pounds of cargo in the back, right, like so, and 1,000 pounds in the front. And you may have seen it when I added the passengers. You may have seen the plane settle on the landing gear a little bit. It did actually add weight to the aircraft, to the flight model, and that's going to be a factor for center of gravity, balance, takeoff weight, all this stuff. Fuel is the next thing, right? So if we go, you know what, I'll just do this now quickly. I'm going to add 10,000 pounds, which is what I know I need, right? We have some fuel on board, and it's going to add another about 6,000 pounds. So we'll go back here then, and we'll call the fuel truck. And if we go back outside, now we've got this little add-on. I believe these are add-ons that are part of this mod. I know you can get an airport animation add-on that activates the jetways and various other things. I don't have that running at the moment. I need to get it, but it does add things like the power cart and the fuel truck with this mod aircraft. So now we've got some fuel coming on board. Question about ATS, ETS2, if you don't mind. No, of course not. I don't mind. What's up? What else do we need to do? That's going. We can go back here. I'm going to wait till the fuel is on board until we start boarding passengers. But there's some other things we can do in the meantime. So that voice that you heard when we first turned the power on was ATIS, right? So we'll go back here. We'll go to Add a tab, go to Airports, and we will type in Lima Fox Mike November, which is the code for Nice Côte d'Azur Airport. When we go here, we get all these frequencies. ATIS is 136.580. That is already in here from the last time I flew out of this airport, 136.580. I'm going to dip in the chat here before I flip that over, because when I do, it'll start making some noise. Do I know any good website to download mods off the top of my head? I use the Steam Workshop almost exclusively now. I used to, I will admit, go to like the dodgy Russian mod sites, but you really don't know. You just don't know. You never know the provenance of a mod when you're on one of those sites. And I just feel better. I feel better about myself if I stick with the Steam Workshop. Other than that, if you go to the SCS Soft forums and look up specific mods that you are interested in, you can very often find the developer of that mod, and they will have a designated link to where they want you to download it from. But unless you get it from their thread on the SCS Soft forum, I don't know that the mod that I'm downloading is really the developer's mod, or if they're getting paid when I download it from there. Because there are some mod makers that don't go through the Steam Workshop. Jazzy Cat, I think, is a perfect example. There's an MAN. Yeah, there's a couple good legitimate mods that the modder just chooses to not go through Steam. But I find those through the SCS Soft forum, and that's a good safe place I found. What was I talking about? ATIS. Right, so we go down here to ATIS, and when we flip this over now, so this is our standby frequency, and it's going to, when I hit this, it's going to flip it over to active, and this will immediately wake up. So we need two things here. We need altimeter, and we need our departure runway. So we are 3021 and 04 right. Turn that back off. So 3021. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing this like I know what I'm doing. I sort of know what I'm doing. I'm learning this stuff, but I am by no means an expert. So if I make a mistake or I do something wrong here, let me know in the chat, because I want to learn the right way to do this. 3021 on the altimeter, so we're good there. And runway 4 right. So if we go back over here now, runway 4 right has a heading of 043. And before I forget, because I always do, we're going to set our course and our heading to 043, and I'll tell you why when we get closer to taxiing. All right, 043, 043, 043. There we go. All right, and our fuel is on board, so we can go back here now and start boarding. Yeah, I mean, there's something like share mods. Not share mods. Oh, is it share host? I don't know. It's not a mod site. It's a download site. And there are some modders that ask you to download it from there. And there's pop-ups and ads and stuff. And every time you download it, they get a penny or a nickel or whatever. So that's where most mods get downloaded anyway. But I want to use the mod that the modder posted, if that makes sense, so that they get paid. Because it's easy enough. I mean, once you download a mod, you can just repost it on a mod site yourself and say it's your own, and you're getting that nickel. So, I mean, all those nickels add up. If somebody's making a few $100 a month from a mod, I want them to get paid for their work. So I try to go through Steam Workshop, or like I said, through the SCS Soft forum. It's not perfect, but it works. I hope it works. All right, take a look up here again. 1 minute to go before that aligns, and I'm trying to think of other things we can do while we're waiting here. We can start turning on a little bit of lighting because we're going to need it. So dial this up a little bit. And I am doing this without a checklist and a little bit out of sequence, but it'll get better later. Mostly my goal is to just get the aircraft in the air, right? And land it safely. All right, so we got that going now. All this stuff, I mean, this is not in the base aircraft, but all this stuff you get, you can check your fire extinguisher bottles, right? You can test those, test these. And all this stuff is if you work down the real checklist. And I learned this from a YouTuber that I watch who is a real pilot, a real 737 pilot. If you watch him go through it, I guess that's how it's done in real life, right? Like it is that accurate. Okay, so we're gonna go to the FMC now, the box. All right, so we go to the FMC. The first thing we need to do is initialize our position. We do that by typing in Lima, Fox, Mike, November. We put that in for our airport. I always put in the gate, but I don't think you have to do this, right? And that gives us coordinates. We copy these, put them in here, and we'll see this number begin counting down, and now the aircraft knows where it is in space, right? So we have a location. All right, let that cycle all the way down. Beautiful. Next thing we're going to do is put our route in here, and when we put our route in, it will be in 2 dimensions. It will be the X and Y, right, left turns and right turns, but it will also be Z and have our altitude in there as well. So we are going to do it this way. We have Lima, Fox, Mike, November in there already. We're going to add Lima, Sierra, Zulu Hotel, 01, and this is a flight plan that I built in SimBrief and then exported. And once we put it in here as a company route, right, and our flight number is 1932, which I just made up. Put that in there, and then we activate it, and then we execute it. So now, if we zoom out on this display right here, right, we've got a route going from where we are in Nice all the way to Zurich. But what it does not have at the moment is a departure and an arrival. So the next thing we'll do is performance. We'll go right here. That's our gross weight. That was determined by the passenger total that we put in, the freight, and also the fuel that we have on board. Reserve fuel, this is really important. I will talk about this after we get airborne. Reserve fuel is 3. Cost index of 30, right? This is a number determined by the company you work for, by the airline you work for, and we'll talk about that as we're flying too, because we'll have a minute in the air to sort of go over some of this stuff. And like I said, I'm learning it. I'm no expert. 35,000 feet for cruise altitude. Execute that. Cruise wind. You're not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to hop into Little Nav Map, which is an app that I use. If I can find it. Right here. Right here. I'll be right back. And we want to go right there. 35,254 at 3.1. So we're going to put in here 254/3.1, and that means at 35,000 feet the wind is 254 degrees, 31 knots. So we'll put that right in there. And I'm not able to find my top of climb outside air temperature on my charts, but I know there's a way to do it. I just haven't done it yet. So I use a generic temperature of minus 35. Go back. Minus 35. Put the C in, and that automatically slots that into the right-hand side and calculates everything else here. Right. N1 limit. This is how fast our engines are going to go when we apply takeoff go-around power. And we can sort of cheat it a little bit. Right now they're at 98.7 of N1. That's pretty hot. So by sort of lying to it about what the temperature is, we can sort of derate the engines down to 90%. This will keep them running cooler, right? So we're at 26 right there. We'll go here, we'll go here, right? One more column. Hang on, let me take a look at the chat. Nope, all right. I thought I saw something come in. Flaps are going to be 5 degrees. We put that in. Center of gravity is calculated from the fuel, the passengers, gross weight of the aircraft, everything else. And our trim is now 5 1/4. So if we come down here, we're going to spin this to 5 1/4, and that means the aircraft is going to not need a whole lot of elevator control to maintain level flight. So we put that in, and I think that is just about done. All right, we need our V speeds. So V1 is our reject speed. If we wanted to be able to stop before the end of the runway, we would need to apply the brakes before we were at 135 knots. And our rotate speed is also 135 knots. So essentially these two numbers, we're going to cross these at the same time. Our co-pilot is going to call out V1 and then rotate. If we have not aborted the landing before 135 knots, we have to take off. There's not enough room to stop before the end of the runway. And then we want V2 plus 20 right here. So that is going to be 158 knots. And while I'm here, before I forget, flight director's on, like so, and we'll put 35,000 in here as well. All right. So we need to do 2 more things in the FMC. We need to put in a departure, and I've been flying this route a lot, so I know which one I want to use. We're taking off from runway 4 right, put that in like so, and we're going to use the VASI 6E like so. We execute, and now if we go to plan like this and we zoom in, we can see at the end of runway 4 right, it's got us flying in a nice little curve out over the med, and then to the north, and then we'll turn sort of to the west and fly over the mountains. So that is our departure. We still need insufficient fuel. Just ignore that. Just ignore that. We also need an arrival. And for that, I'm going to hop back into Little Nav Map. Disappear for a minute. I'll be right back. When I look at the weather in Little Nav Map, I see wind is 309 at 2 knots, barely any wind. Best runways for wind is going to be 28, 34, and 32. 34 is my preferred ILS runway for Zurich, so we're going to say arrival, ILS 34. Right, my approach is the Kelly 2G, and my transition is Gulf India Papa 34. Right, like so. We execute that, and now if we go back to route, right, if I can find it, there it is, back to route, legs, step, if we step all the way through, looking on that menu there, and this is getting into Zurich. It looks a little cluttered right now, but let me spread it out. This is the pattern that we're going to fly. As we get into Zurich, we'll fly essentially over the airport, right, then to the west, loop around, back to the south, and then turn on final. Now, something else that really confused me, if we look on the FMC, right, here, runway 34, 1,439 feet, right? Now there are other waypoints after it, and I was really confused by those for the longest time. This is our go around. If we do have to declare a missed approach, or if for some reason we can't land, or air traffic control tells us don't land after we're on final, we would fly to these waypoints and these altitudes, right? So that's what's going on there. So back out of this, like that, and if we go back to route now, there's only one other thing we need to do, and that is take a look at our altitude. So 420 feet, this is us taking off. 2,800 feet, 10,000, 14,000, 15,000, right? And we'll do that all the way up to down here, 35,000. That's our cruising altitude, 35,000. And then here, it gets a little wonky, because we're at 35,000. This is where we begin our descent. And at 14,000, right, 10,000, 29,000. So these values in here are no good. And I think what I want to do is delete them. delete them, right. There we go. And that is going to replace it with a more appropriate, there we go, a more appropriate altitude and bring us down slowly. This one I think is no good as well because we're at 19,000 and then 14,000, so the 7,000 feet, that's no good. Get rid of that. Beautiful. 19, 16, 14, 11, 10, 9, 8, and this will just fly us all the way down to runway 34 in Zurich. All right, so that's our flight plan. And those numbers that we put in for performance data is going to be determined by, well, they're already determined, but they're going to be controlled by VNAV when we get in the air. LNAV is lateral. This is our course. VNAV is how quickly we climb and various other things. So a lot of this stuff is not in the base aircraft. It's been added in this mod, and I'm just having a great time figuring it all out. Okay. I think that's us ready to go. Did I forget anything? MCP is good all the way across. We need to go up here. All right, take this up to 35,000. This is our cabin pressure. This is important. I've forgotten this a couple times. And right like so. This is our landing altitude in Zurich, and it's 1,450 feet. So now, fuel is on board, and let's start closing out the overhead. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. Turn those on. Fuel pumps on. All right. And we're going to fire up the APU. APU is a small turbine in the tail of the aircraft, and I'll zoom in here so you can hear it. Let me know how the volume is too. I want you to be able to hear all this really cool stuff. So it's a turbine in the tail of the aircraft that powers us up so we can get off this cart, and we'll still have power after we push back and we're out on the taxiway. Oh, there it goes. Oh, beautiful. It's not a bad looking game. It's really not. It doesn't look as good as Flight Simulator, but it is by no means a bad looking game. No complaints. All right, I'll hop back inside. And we're waiting for this blue light to come on right here. And when it does, that means the APU is making enough power that it can run the aircraft. All right. There we go. Packs on. APU bleed is on. All right. I think we're good there. I'm forgetting something. I always do. All right. So now we're going to push back. Clear that. Good there. Good there. All right. This is another plugin that I'm using. It's called Better Pushback. Other Pushback is, like the base game is, This one is super cool. You can actually tell it where you want the aircraft to end up rather than trying to steer it. You can just tell it ahead of time where you want it to go, and it'll push it right back to there. So,
run to cockpit, bladder knowledge, call me through the menu when you are ready.
Beautiful. And whoever built this mod, whatever airport you're at, that's the accent that your tug driver has. Beautiful little detail. All right. Turn these up a little bit. Turn these up a little bit. Now, we had our crash 2 days ago. I had a crash in X-Plane. Doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. And it happened just as we were getting to Zurich. So we got about an hour into the flight. I really hope that doesn't happen again, obviously. But are we...
Run to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Where's my guy at? There he is. Morphing through walls, spawning inside buildings. My man. We made it about an hour, and as soon as it crashed, I just deleted the videos. Really bummed about that. But if that does happen again today, I'm going to leave it up, and it'll just have kind of a, you know what I mean, an awkward dismount, but no need to waste a good effort, I guess. Right, there's our tug. And this is, well, we can go outside and take a look at it. But it's a nice animation, nice detail.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
And I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, but they're going to pull that thing in and essentially clamp the front wheel, clamp the nose gear. Love it. Not in base game, at least not that I've ever seen. Could be wrong about that. And we can go back here now. We can go here, disconnect the power cart. Get up there. For me, normally just the game crashes and everything else stays running. What happened when I had that crash the other day was the whole machine locked up.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
And I couldn't even do a Control-Alt-Delete. All right, so we're going to release the parking brake. When we do, we're going to start to move back.
Can you start engines?
He's telling us we can start engines, so we're going to turn off the AC. All right. AC is off. Starting engine number 2. So yeah, it was a bad crash. It locked everything up, and it crashed OBS as well. So normally, if a game crashes, OBS stays running and the stream stays live, and I can at least say goodbye. But it was a deader. All right, 20%. So we're going to add fuel, and that will. There we go. That'll fire up the engine. So that is number 2 spooling up. No, this game, the crashes are a little bit more dramatic than Flight Sim, but not as dramatic as like DCS. I'm sorry, man. I'm an idiot. I thought you meant a game crash, like a crash in the game. All right. So this popped, and that means engine number 2 is up and stabilized. So we'll start number 1 now. Same process. And I could do this all day. I can't even tell you how much I love flying sims. This is like, it's like better than a drug for OCD. It just really, yeah. It really takes the edge off OCD and Asperger's. It really does. It's so much data and information and so many things to remember. It just occupies my mind, and it's a lot of peace, man. All right. So everything's up and running there. We're going to wait for number 1 to stabilize, and it is. And what we can do now is put the aircraft on. There we go. That popped. We can put the aircraft on the generators driven by the engine.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Parking brake. We can
Connecting tow. Standby.
turn the APU off. Turn the AC back on. Yaw dampers. Probe heat and window de-icing. The window de-icing, or the window heaters, I was flying in this plane and I realized I couldn't see anything. I got all mad and went on Reddit and was like, hey, the sky stopped rendering. The game's not working properly. And in the Reddit, I mean, not to me, somebody else had asked the same question, and they were like, yeah, defrost your windows, idiot. All right. So we'll go back here. PA system. Play our welcome announcement.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed.
Take a look up here.
We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
And what they just said was, so they're driving away now. They were talking about the bypass pin, and I guess that's a pin they put in to be able to use the tug on the aircraft, but you want it all the way gone, because now what happens is when he goes over there, he's going to get out and like visually show us the pin. Thank you, sir. All right. I'm forgetting something. I always do. That's why there are checklists, but all right. All right. Here we go. Flaps for takeoff. Just trying to look anything else that we may have forgotten. Nope. I think we're good. Here we go. We are going to taxi to runway 4 right. Take off just as the sun is setting. Oh, I love it. The power. Take off just as the sun is setting. We're going to fly over the Alps, and we should be getting into Zurich. Hopefully there's still enough daylight that we can see a little bit of the terrain, but also have the lights on at the airport and get to see that effect as well. All right. So what I was told by, I guess, very serious sim pilots, well, they're real life airline pilots, but they fly sim aircraft on YouTube, and what I heard a lot was just focus on one aircraft and one route and really learn it, and you'll make the same mistakes over and over. You'll make new mistakes but on the same route, but basically you're just figuring out the way to do things rather than trying to figure out new airports. And once you have that route and that aircraft dialed, then you can add new routes, right? New airports to land at. But learn the approaches, learn the transitions. I don't have any charts right now, but you can go through Navigraph, you can go through Jeppesen is a maker of aircraft charts. And I guess when you're flying into an airport as an airline pilot, right, you like bring those charts up on your tablet and you familiarize yourself with the taxiways if it's a place you haven't been before, and just do all the things that you need to do so that you can land safely. And then once you're on the ground, you still have to essentially drive the thing. You have to drive the aircraft to the gate, right? And if it's an airport you've never been at before, these taxiways can be incredibly confusing. So use charts for all that stuff, and there's just a lot of detail in this sim that I had never really gotten into before. I never flew airliners. I always flew small general aviation aircraft, and I'm really, really enjoying this. So got a ways to go. I'm not a pro by any means, but I'm trying to learn fast. And whoa. So this aircraft in real life, when it's taxiing, it is steered with this tiller down here.
Approaching.
And you can set that up on another axis, but I'm just using the twist feature on my flight stick and steering with the rudder, so it does tend to, when we make turns, it tends to yaw a little bit more than it would in real life. Alright, and we're far enough away that I'm going to go ahead and turn my strobes on. I guess that is a courtesy. You don't turn your strobes on when you're over by the gates, and you don't turn your taxi lights on and some of the other bright lights on the aircraft. If you've got people working around the aircraft, those lights can really be way too bright. Mess your eyes up, particularly when it's very dark. So leave all those off as a courtesy, leave strobes off as a courtesy, but as we're getting closer to the runway, we can start to bring those up. I'm going to move these to continuous, and this is the way that the igniters in the engines work. You move those to continuous during takeoff, and I guess that's more I don't know, sort of a fail-safe. If you were to have an engine begin to not function properly, you've got the igniters already sort of teed up, and then we'll turn those back to automatic once we get up to altitude. All right. I downloaded the high-def terrain mesh earlier today. It seems to be working okay. I guess that just brings in a more accurate terrain mesh under the visuals that the game applies. And then I looked at ortho as well, which is the photorealistic imagery that you can then lay over either base game mesh or the high def mesh. And yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I'll tell you about that as well. Right, so we would stop here and ask for clearance and a bunch of other things, and I'm just going to instead check one more click on the flaps, so that's good. MCP is good. We want that right there. We need to arm auto throttle like so. Everything up here is good. Yep, I think so. All right, here we go. Nervous. Oh, nervous.
Approaching 04 right.
and that is a plugin called RAAS, R-A-A-S, that tells us when we're getting close to runways and other things. All right, get us on the center stripe. Try to anyway.
On runway 04 right.
All right, here we go. Everything's good. Everything's good. So we'll reset fuel flow counter. Start the timer. Apply takeoff power. Here we go. Slight forward pressure on the stick. That's going to keep the nose wheel planted and give us nose wheel authority until there's enough air moving over the aircraft to give us rudder authority. There's 80 knots. Ease back on the stick. V1 and rotate. Right there. Pull through the deadband. Gear up. And that's us up. Oh, the nervousness. All right. There we go. We'll go third person for this. Well, that was easy. Yep, 40 minutes to get us off the ground. How about it? So we'll make our turn out over the Med. Yeah, that's not a bad looking game. It's no flight simulator, but that's not a bad looking game. I'll take it. Any day, I'll take it. 1,600-mile trip. That's got to be from like Seattle to somewhere in New Mexico. That's a long trip. Beautiful. I love it. All right, back in here. Flaps the rest of the way. Yeah. All right, so we got a speed bug at about 230 right now. And that's going to hold up to about 10,000 feet. Flying through some clouds. All right. That's going to hold up to about 10,000 feet. At 10,000 feet, we'll pitch forward and speed up to about 320 and then pitch up again and continue our climb to 35,000. There we go. All right, step one. So we'll dial this out now and we'll be able to see our route the rest of the way into Zurich, right, like so. So this says we've got this yellow box down here now. We're going to click right there and go to standard altimeter, and we'll maintain that until we start descending into Zurich. All right. This is all good over here. All good over here. Engines to continuous. And this is a nice little feature here. There's a little sort of a mini checklist on the back of the yoke. Start, landing gear to off, auto brake, flaps, altimeter set. Yep. New Mexico to Washington. Yeah, that would make sense. I think that's, you sort of make it's like a hockey stick, but as long as you drive around Colorado and kind of go west through Arizona and then north, yeah, you get 1,600 miles. Wow, that's a long trip. You're gonna have to sleep twice or three times. All right, so we got one other thing we need to keep in mind. We've got visible moisture in the air right now. That's what these clouds are. And true air temperature is 8 degrees, now 7 degrees. When you combine those two, visible moisture and less than 10 degrees, we want to turn on engine anti-ice right there. And when we turn these on, we have to flip from auto to continuous on the engines. All right. We're also running X checklist. Everything in X-plane has an X in front of it. X checklist, X sky, X everything. So we're going to get these popping up continuously on our way to Zurich. Burn fuel and time compared with flight plan. going to skip that right now. I don't have the flight plan open, and also heading bug. And that is good. We'll get rid of that. Turn the flight attendants loose. There we go. And that one. All right. I do this, I wouldn't say every night, but I think most nights I do this flight, and I find it to be just so relaxing. I really, really do. It's about an hour from takeoff to landing, and it's just, I think, the perfect distance. Because right about the time we hit top of climb, everything kind of stabilizes, and then a few minutes later we start our descent. Right. Same thing, burn fuel and time, heading bug. Heading bug, we're good. All right. Oh, that's an interesting way to do it. You know, as many mods as there are for Truck Simulator, I'm surprised that somebody has not made a mod that is essentially like a logbook mod. You know, that it would be maybe more accurate or more varied fatigue cycle and a way to keep track of it and sort of plan your trips, right? Like maybe apply an overlay to the map with some windows of where it is predicted that you'll need to sleep, so you can look in those areas and find a place where you can sleep and put a pin in it, right? Because what happens with me is I don't sleep until I start yawning, and then it's like, well, you know, where are we going to find a place? But I would like to be able to plan that a little bit better, rather than just not panicking, but you know what I mean? I just drive until I know I have to sleep, and then I start looking. I'd like to be reminded to look ahead of time. All right, so we're going to bring this up here. Right, like so. And right like so, if I can find it. That's the downside to Track IR, is my view tends to wander a little bit as I'm looking around. All right, so next thing we need to do is go back to Avatab, and we're going to put in another airport, and that is going to be Lima Sierra Zulu Hotel, right? And this is Zurich. So this ATIS is either 128.525 or 125.730. 125.730 is already in there. Like I said, I fly this route all the time. And now, hang on a minute. Moment, please. This is my high-def terrain mesh. Are we over the med? I thought we had turned north already. Stand by. We can go in here. Avatab map. Yeah, I guess that's still the med out there. Out the window. Okay. I saw all this because I know you can get some errors with different terrain meshes where you have water in places that it's not supposed to be. But no, I guess that's right. That's just the med. All right. And we are up above these clouds again, so anti-ice off. And then back to auto. Right, so if we go back here, back to Avatab, back to airports, so we've got these dialed in now. And as we get closer to Zurich, this is going to come alive, and we'll get ATIS. That'll give us our altimeter, right? So we know how to get that set. And it will also tell us what runway is active, although we're pretty much committed to runway 34. So, and that's something that when I get into VATSIM, I'm really looking forward to, because you take off knowing where you're probably going to land, right? What your runway is probably going to be, but not 100%. And you sort of find out when you're in the air. ATC will give you your, yeah, that's maybe not working quite the way it's supposed to. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the maps make the map says we're how far in? No, I guess that's right. I guess that's right. Hey, Imperia. We just flew over Imperia. Imperia is actually the whole reason we're making this trip. I want to try to fly the same route that Jason Bourne took, starting from the first movie. So if we go here, right? Here's the med. This is where Jason Bourne They found him. They pulled him into the fishing boat. They took him to Imperia, which is right over here. And from Imperia, he went to Zurich. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go from, well, in this case, we're going to go from Nice to Zurich, and then we're going to go from Zurich to Paris, and then Berlin. It's going to be the whole Jason Bourne, I don't know, adventure route. We'll figure it out. So, what was I talking about? What was I trying to figure out? Oh, right. We'll get that information as we get closer to Zurich. If we were on VATSIM, if we were on ATC, they would tell us where we're landing, and that would be, you know what I mean? That'd be it. We would have to land where they told us to land, and we would have to get that approach and that transition all programmed in and figured out. So I'm looking forward to VATSIM. I'll be doing that probably next week. I don't think I'm going to live stream it straight away, but at some point we will. Now something we can do is we can come here. Runway 34 has a heading of 332, so we'll put this in, and the way that this system works for ILS is it needs to be, everything needs to agree. So between the captain's information, the first officer's information, and the FMC, everything needs to be in agreement if you want to fly down the ILS guidance. Okay, so that is all 332. Everything is good up here. If we take a look right here, cabin altitude is climbing, so we're good here. This is all live, by the way, and a lot of this stuff does not work in base game, but things like the temperature in the cabin, if you turn the heat up very gradually, the temperature will increase. It's just, this mod is absolute madness, and I understand why real pilots fly it. It's just so unbelievably detailed. I love it. All right, we're good on fuel, and we're good here. We have this plugged in. Yep. And once we get to 35,000, we'll get another pop-up to adjust the cabin lighting. I don't think at the moment, if I understand it correctly from the real pilots that I watch on YouTube, at the moment, I don't think people are allowed to move around the cabin because of COVID. So, as far as I understand it, when you get to cruising altitude now, regardless of the length of the flight, the only people moving around are flight attendants, and if you need to go to the restroom or something. All right, and I'm going to dial this in a little bit, because this number right here, right, this little green arc where it says TOC, that's top of climb, so that'll be 35,000 feet for us. And when we get there, there are a couple of things that we need to remember to do. And one of those is reset our altitude. So the way that the FMC is set up, I told you it flew us all the way up here. It kept the speeds where they needed to be. It controlled pitch, flew everything on the flight director. It handles all of that. It will do exactly the same thing for the descent in reverse. We're going to back our bank angle down to 10 degrees over 30,000 feet. It's going to do everything just the exact opposite of that as we descend into Zurich. But we need to tell it, in this case we told it how high to go, 35,000 feet, and it flew us up to 35,000 feet in accordance with the flight plan and the FMC. Once we get to top of climb, I'll back this down to probably 5,000 feet, and that will do everything in reverse down to 5,000 feet, and by that point we'll be just about ready to pick up the ILS. All right, so we'll make a little turn here. Man, I really hope this holds together all the way to landing. Really hope it does. I don't know, you want to call that visible moisture? Heading bug will get there, okay. Yeah, there's stuff in this aircraft like, if I can find it, like, where is it? Like that. How cool is that? And it's just kind of a paper checklist like you have. It's a very cool mod, and it's free too. It's one of the best mods I've ever seen for any game or sim, and it's all free. Amazing. All right, and we can go from here. I think we can go back to the map. We've got just about everything we need dialed in. Alright, we're going to make a big turn right here. And we are at top of climb. Well, just about. Another 1,000 feet to go. Alright, and I'm going to take this opportunity to have a little bit of water, so pay no attention to track IR, it's going to go all crazy for a minute. When I see the sun going down, I look at the time and then find some place to sleep. Okay. I do exactly the opposite. Not on purpose sometimes, but I just drive until I have to sleep. And I find that forces me, sometimes I'm driving in the daytime, sometimes I'm driving at night. I really like driving at night in sim. So cabin lighting and passenger announcement, we'll go here. Give the level up announcement. Back here, cabin lighting, and they want cruise for passengers. That's that one. And white medium for entry. So those are all good. X out of that. Beautiful. All right, that's us. And I can back this down to 5,000 feet. I don't know if this is exactly how it's done. I mean, I try to pick up everything I can from the YouTube pilots that I'm watching. And I know some of them, like I said, they are real pilots. So I assume that they're doing everything as close to accurately as they can. But some of it does go by pretty fast. And it's tough to remember every single thing that they're doing. Oh, right, I was going to mention fuel. So when we go to our flight plan, here, yep. So this is a flight plan. I generated this in SimBrief, which is a website that, I mean, all it does is generate flight plans for simulation flying. 52 pages long, and it is just all acronyms. There's so many things that I don't know that I need to like figure out about these briefs. But one of the things that it does is it tells you fuel, and the sim pilots that I'm watching talk about tons. Oh, there you go. It's got some new clouds. They talk about tons. This aircraft, the way I have it set up, is showing in pounds. And I really need to, like, 6,000 pounds is not 6 tons. So I really need to get on one standard. Because as it is, you know, when I hear a pilot talk about a similar trip as the one we're taking right now, and they say they're going to take 8 tons of fuel, completely different than 8,000 pounds of fuel. So I need to find a way to sort that out so I can continue to emulate what they're doing and just make that conversion in my head so that we always have the right amount. But yeah, those charts are next level. And I guess when you bring all that together with VATSIM, what it does is the VATSIM controllers and SimBrief, they can all sort of collaborate and do things like block off taxiways in sim that are blocked off in real life. So if they're really working on a taxiway at LAX and it is closed right now, in sim you would not be able to use that taxiway. So it's just an unbelievable level of detail and accuracy that these nerds, and I use that term with love, that these nerds bring to the sim. It's amazing. And VATSIM, you can use it with X-Plane, FSX, Prepared, or Prepare 3D, depending on how you prefer to say it, Flight Sim 20, really any flight sim, and I think it's even cross-platform. If I heard correctly, as long as you're in VATSIM, they see you at an airport, but it doesn't really matter what sim you're in. They can integrate you with other pilots and other ATCs. So I can't wait to get into VATSIM. Really, really looking forward to it. All right, and then buried right in here about, I want to say about 10 minutes from now is another little green indication, and that one is TD, top of descent, and from there we'll start descending all the way down to Zurich. And I think that's my favorite part. If taking off is the most stressful part, I think descent and landing is the most relaxing part for me, because everything just starts happening so quickly. and there's a certain inevitability to it. I do like that. Oh, and it's Monday, so there's the landscapers outside. Perfect. That's going to be a Monday tradition. I don't know how else to escape them. You know, it's funny because they were here at like 7 o'clock this morning, and then they left, and I thought they were gone for the day, and now it is 2 in the afternoon, and they're back. What can you do? All right. Is there anything else? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? This is something that is not in base game either. Oh no, our door is closed. Did I close that? Did I? I fly this flight so many times, I forgot. I don't even remember closing that. Yeah, the door opens and closes. You can look down the aisle and see the passengers back there. You can see the lighting, different lighting modes depending on what you have turned on. It's just an unbelievable mod. The Zibo 737. It's funny that I owned X-Plane. I really had not spent a lot of time in it. I had flown a little bit of general aviation, but hadn't spent a ton of time in it. I haven't flown a lot of simulation aircraft since FSX. And then I got Flight Sim 20, was totally into it, and started noticing the flaws, started noticing the problems, and got back into X-Plane and started flying for the first time, started flying airliners, and then sort of stumbled across those YouTubers, and from there discovered this Zibo mod, and now I am absolutely hooked, man. I want to learn how you really fly an airliner, and I want to be able to do this well enough to fly with those real pilots. I don't talk about politics on the channel, even though I want to. I don't even know what's happening in America right now. Just hang on. Everything's going to be fine. Just hang on. I don't know what was going on there. No idea. All right, and we are just getting ready to sort of cross over the spine of the Alps here. And we will be, that's pretty. We're using a Vivid Sky plugin, a Vivid Sky patch, I guess, called Nordic Extreme. And I really do like it. Lighting in the game is not the best. It's not the prettiest, but it has its moments. I mean, you saw that takeoff. So there's Zurich right there on the map, and we will continue on our way. Let's turn these on so we can see as we get a little bit closer. Yeah, I swear, man, every Monday I can't escape from the leaf blowers. But the thing is, the weekend I found is really bad for streaming. It's like people are doing other things. I have a much smaller turnout on the weekends, so I try not to stream on the weekends, and I try to always stream on Monday to start the week off. I don't want to not stream on Monday and start the week on Tuesday, and instead it's just like a constant battle between me and the landscapers. It seems like every stream. Now, when I was recording and then rendering and posting afterwards, that was a little bit different, because if I heard them start up, I could just wait until I knew they were gone. But with the live stream, I try to go every day at 1, and yeah, what can you do? So we've got this little warning right down here right now for a mismatch on our heading and the ILS for the runway. And the reason for that is, if we go to the pedestal, I already have plugged in here on both sides 110.75. That is the ILS frequency for runway 34 in Zurich. And the thing is, there's only so many frequencies, and so they repeat them. Different airport ILS has the same ILS frequency. They just try to spread them out, right? Try to move them to airports that are far enough apart that you would never have an overlap of ILS frequencies. So this airport right here, which is probably, well, I don't know. But this airport right here is also using 110.75. So we have it dialed in, and that is what it is seeing right here. But I put those in ahead of time. And that's something else that when I get into VATSIM, like when they give you your runway, you need to remember to come down here and get everything plugged in and squawk codes and everything else. It's going to be a handful. I'm looking forward to it. I really am, but I am intimidated. It's going to be a big jump. Oh, man. You know, between my cooling fans and, hang on, let me get the map moved a little bit here. There we go. Between the cooling fans on my PC and the landscapers, I really want to build a studio that is completely soundproof, but at the moment, that's not a possibility. But I would really love to do that and just have it absolutely quieted down and, you know, professional, like the big timers do it. But, and here's our heading bug and our fuel. Heading and fuel are good. Flight Deck to Sim is the YouTuber that I've been watching a great deal of lately. He is a real 737 pilot. He's just a great guy. He's very funny, very entertaining, does nice long streams. Love the guy. But when he steps away, and he gets up about every hour or so to stretch, when he steps away, he goes to an exterior view, and he puts a sellotape dispenser on one of his arrow keys, and it slowly rotates the camera around the plane. So, I mean, we all just kind of make this up as we go along. I think every YouTuber and every streamer, we're all just figuring it out. But I hear things like that, and I think, yeah, I'm not doing so bad. I feel very unprofessional. This feels very hokey, but at least I don't have a sellotape dispenser on my arrow key. Not yet. We are, yep, we're getting there. I think these flights are about the perfect length for a stream. I know I've seen YouTubers that fly from like Kennedy, New York to Heathrow, and it's 4.5 hours. I don't know, that seems a bit long for a stream. I think, I don't know, Berlin to Innsbruck is a good one, Berlin to Vienna. You know, there's some good, call them 60 to 120 minute streams, including startup, right? Cold and dark startup, pushback, taxi takeoff, landing and taxi. I think 2 hours is about perfect for me. After that, my voice starts to go, and you know, people got things to do. Not everybody has that kind of time to just sit around watching someone play a video game. But yeah, this is, you know, looking out the window here, I have no complaints. It is different than Flight Sim 20, but Flight Sim 20 is in a world of its own, and I think it will be for a while to come. So it's almost not fair to compare what we're looking at now to Flight Simulator. All right, this pops up. We're not even nearly ready to descend, and this pops up. So we're going back to landing and bright white. Let's go back here. Landing and bright white. We want ground services, cabin lighting. We want landing and bright white. There we go. Oh, well, thanks, Fried. I appreciate it. I have almost no idea what I'm doing. I swear, man. Every day it's like just find some new problem to solve, something new to figure out. But I really am enjoying it. I hope the channel continues to grow and that things just continue moving in the direction they are, because I'm really enjoying it. No plans to stop. It's all good here. This is all good here. Oh, okay. So yeah, when you're setting up your flight plan, you do have an alternate airport, and you also have hold, which would be, they put you into a racetrack pattern, and you essentially just fly laps at a certain altitude while you're waiting for them to clear out the bottleneck traffic that they have at the airport. So this FMC down here, this flight computer has the option to put holds in. It has, we saw that go around feature. I need to experiment with that a little bit more. It's just got a lot of things that are in the real aircraft, but in real life you do get holds and you do get diverted. If for some reason you can't land at the airport you wanted to land at, you need to have a plan in place to fly somewhere else, and you need to have enough fuel to get there. Yeah, you know, and I think in a way that's one of the most fun aspects of it, is you never know what to expect. It's going to be different every day, And, you know, you just figure it out. You just sort it out. Yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it. I really do. Heading bug and fuel. Still good. So all those things are in the FMC, all those things are in real life, and I guess a fuel emergency in an airliner is really different than a fuel emergency to me. Like if I'm in my car and I'm almost on E, I don't really consider that to be an emergency. It's a pain in the ass. It could be an inconvenience, right? If I ran out of fuel, but you just pull to the side and then, yeah, you know. Oh, thanks, Fried. I appreciate those kind words. I really do. Thanks, man. What was I complaining about? Oh, fuel. Yeah, right. If I'm in my car, a fuel emergency, you just pull over. But if you're in an aircraft, it's a huge problem, not necessarily for the possibility of crashing, but if you have to, like if you get below, I think that 737 pilot said 30 minutes was his company's policy. If you have less than 30 minutes of fuel on board, that is a fuel emergency, and you have to declare. You have to get on the radio with air traffic control and say, I have an emergency. And as soon as you say emergency, they are required to move heaven and earth to get you on the ground. Even though you're not falling out of the sky or anything, they have to put you on the ground. And because you said it's a fuel emergency, you have to land as soon as possible. And that means your aircraft, right, your $50 million aircraft, and all your passengers are at the wrong airport. So running low on fuel and having to declare a fuel emergency is a huge problem. It is not something a pilot ever wants to do. So when you set up flight plans, that's how it sets up fuel. And when you set up the FMC with your alternate and your reserve fuel and everything else, it's all calculating that you want to land with much more than 30 minutes of fuel left on board. If you're landing with 30 minutes of fuel or close to 30 minutes of fuel, you're actually out of fuel. You have much less than you're supposed to. So being able to calculate all that and being able to use those things in VATSIM, I think that would be a lot of fun to try to do that. And now VATSIM, so if we go here, right, this thing right here is the transponder. We don't have a squawk code in it right now because we're not using ATC, but you put a code in here and that tells air traffic control what aircraft you are, and right. But what you can do is you can put a code in here, and I want to say it's 7700, and that's the code for we are being hijacked, right? If you do that on VATSIM, they will kick you off the service because you're not being hijacked. I don't know if you can declare those types of emergencies. I have seen in stream, I've seen people be sent to other airports. We're too full, we're no longer accepting traffic, and you have to fly to your alternate or pick another airport to go to. But I think being able to use the full capacity of this FMC when it comes to things like holds and being diverted and fuel emergencies and various other things, I think that would be just an absolute blast to experiment with those things. I think the reason you can't at the moment is that everybody on VATSIM would want to do that. You know, like the hijacking squawk. Everybody would be doing that. Every episode, every stream, every episode. You know what I meant. Every stream, somebody would be saying they're getting hijacked. You know, and that sort of ruins it for everybody else. So I don't know. Maybe they could have like a designated number per year, right? If you're on VATSIM once per year, once per calendar year, you can declare you're being hijacked. You can declare you're, you know, whatever. Now, I don't know what that would work out to on an average flight if you've got 100 people in the service at once. On any given day, what are the odds that somebody's going to say they're being hijacked? There's thousands of people using the service, so I don't know. You see what I'm getting at, that there would be a way that there could be those very unexpected circumstances without people abusing it. Unfortunately, people being people. All right, so we just got close enough to Zurich that our ATIS popped up. Arriving runway 34. So we guessed properly. Okay, so everything that we have set up for runway 34, that's all going to work. And our altimeter is going to be 3027. We can't put that in yet because we're too high, but we have that information. And now we can go back down here, flip the channels again, and quiet that down. And what I'm doing periodically, you see this gets more and more cluttered. Every time it gets cluttered, I just zoom us in a little bit, and that opens things up. So right out here in front of us now, you can see this green, let me zoom in, this green TD, that is top of descent. That is where we will begin our descent. So what I'm going to do is turn the seatbelt sign on. That tells our cabin crew they need to wrap up what they're doing because we're going to start descending. We already set the lighting in Avatab. We need to go to the PA system and make our descent announcement, which is going to be very hard for you to hear. Is it possible to build in some random event? There's probably a plug-in to do that. What you can do, whoa, we've got clouds. I'm using Active Sky, which is bringing in real weather, and it doesn't always fade it in, you know what I mean? It thumps it in there sometimes like it just did. You can do mechanical failures and electrical failures and hydraulic failures. You can have those random, so you never know when to expect one, and then you just have to deal with it as a real pilot would. And there is probably, I would guess, as long as this game has been out, there is probably a hijacking plug-in that you can put in where you would randomly be hijacked. Burn fuel, still good. And heading bug, still good. There we go. And this is right about where we crashed in the game 2 days ago. So if we do crash, I'll go ahead and say goodbye now. Thank everybody for sticking around. And I will see you tomorrow in Cattle and Crops. And then the day after, we will be in Colorado. I may have lost a day in there. You know what I mean. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully everything holds together. And I just got the hiccups. How unprofessional. Everything is good here. Everything is good here. Okay. Fuel. We're getting this pop-up every time we cross a waypoint. I don't really mind it. The big one for descent is a little bit more problematic because it's really kind of intrusive, particularly when I'm like concentrating on other things, but what can you do? All right, and we got pretty close on our guess for temperature. I know you can, in SimBrief, it will have your top of climb outside air temperature, but I feel like at the moment, Little Nav Map does not have that. Okay, we're all good here. Go back here. Yep, there is Zurich right there. Yep, there's Zurich and there's us. So we're gonna fly more or less directly over the airport. If I can zoom in here. This is the airport, and the pattern is going to take us right over it at about 30,000 feet, and then we'll fly that elaborate sort of figure 8 pattern. Well, you can see it right there. So this is the airport right here. We're going to fly over it, then west, loop around south, and then back up. Okay, so these numbers right here that you see, we are beginning to descend, variometer is dropping, and this is our, I guess, our vertical navigation. We want to be within this range right here. We're a little bit below right now, but everything will get stabilized. And we are descending. Fantastic. And at some point, it will call for drag. You can see on this side, we're going a little bit fast. Burn fuel. Heading bug still good. We're going a little bit fast. Yep, drag required. So we will put on the brakes. There we go. And that'll slow us down. Some of that stuff is key because the way the flight plan is built, it is expecting you to be moving between given points at a certain speed. And if you go from one of those points to another at too fast a speed, even though your rate of descent may have been appropriate, you've moved too far forward. Right, and so everything is a little bit off. We're also getting a mismatch right here. You can see 333 with the line through it. We're on 332. These things do move a little bit from year to year. I don't know if you do that, but the magnetic pole does move around a little bit, so you have to switch that stuff out in maps and navigation. Still good there, still good there. Okay. So this is all good now. Speed is good. We're going to dial our bank angle back up. I believe the reason we bring that down to 10 degrees maximum bank above 30,000 feet is so we're not throwing the cabin crew all around the inside of the airplane, right? Making big crazy bank turns at 450 miles an hour. All right, so engines are spooling down, keeping the speed down, and we're just continuing to descend. Heading bug and fuel, we're good. We've got some clouds here, no visible moisture. Yeah, take a look here. Descent, anti-ice. Yep, we're good. I say we're good. I mean, I'll review this video and find all the things that I missed. But so far, so good. And as far as I know, all these approaches and transitions, these are all real world. So this is, you know, if you were flying into Zurich and landing ILS on runway 34, you might very well fly this exact pattern. And bring that in. Yep, there we go. Now this one, the one at Gipple, is really weird because it's almost like a 270 degree descending turn. I find it to be a pretty radical maneuver, but I guess it's a real thing in real life. All right, everything's still going okay. Speed is good. Altitude is good. Descent is good. Everything is good. All right. For as many mods and plugins as I have running right now, I find the game to be remarkably stable. And it's also interesting to me that a lot of these mods are 2 and 3 years old and haven't really seen a lot of work or improvement in that time. Some of them are kept up to date, were just updated a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, whatever. But there are others that are 2 and 3 years old, and yet people still recommend them and use them. So it would seem that whatever aspect of the game code they depend on, regardless if that game code is altered by the devs, that mod still works. I don't know. But to have a game 3 years old with mods that are 3 years old and everything to hold together as well as it does, you know, I'll take it. Zoom this in a little bit more. And we are starting our big turn here. We're just about to. Try to get the cursor out of the way. I do love flying in sim. I really, really do. Always have. But I have to say, it's never, at no point in my gaming history has it ever been like this. Between X-Plane with this mod and Flight Simulator, it is a whole new experience. Let's go third person. Nope, can't really see a whole lot. There's kind of a running joke with X-Plane that when it becomes nighttime, when it is dark, it is dark. Let's throw some brakes on here. It's very, very dark outside. I know that sounds like kind of a given, but I think it could be brightened up a little bit. Right. Still good there. keep trying to move the cursor off to the right to get it out of the frame. I'd like to have a more transparent cursor. I don't know if there's a plugin or a mod for that, but I would love to have a cursor that I can just barely see. I think this is the standard Windows cursor, so it's going to be as, you know what I mean, it's kind of a fixed value. You can't necessarily make it more transparent, but I'd like to look for a plugin when we're done today. All right, so that was our big 270-degree turn, and now we're going to head essentially due south, continue descending, and we should see the airport. It'll just be passing in front of us as we finish this turn. And the speeds are continuing to drop here. We're at 284 right now in the FMC, 274, then 240. Yeah, there's the airport right there. We're going to head south of it. All right. We're going to head out this way. Let me zoom in a little bit. We're going to head right down here and then turn 90 degrees and turn 90 degrees onto 333. All right. Everything's still going good. Yeah, those ortho files. So the ortho is the photorealistic scenery, and I tried to render one tile, and I gave up burn fuel. Good there. Heading bug, good there. I tried to download one tile, and it was taking, I don't know, a couple hours. And there's legitimately 100 tiles for Europe. So I don't know what kind of disk space that would have required. And I don't know how long it would have taken, but ain't nobody got time for that. All right, so down here in the display, you're seeing decel right there. And that corresponds to a drop from 274, I believe, to 240. And depending on how quickly we're descending, we may be able to accomplish that just by cutting power, and we may need to throw the brakes on again. But this is, we're going to head out here, and then over here, and then back up this way. So this is runway 34 right here. All right, still good. Good on fuel. What was that? That is visible moisture, and it is 2 below, so I'm going to try to be a good safe pilot. I don't know if you would go de-icing. It's not de-icing, it's anti-ice. I don't know if you would go anti-ice this low, but you know, just using that criteria, it's below 10 degrees, and this is visible moisture, so we'll go ahead and throw it on. All right, there's the airport. And we will decelerate here. Yeah, I mean, there's some pop in, but I'm not troubled by it. I mean, there's sort of, this is a little, kind of a little foothills area right here, and this road ends very abruptly as it gets to it. So it's not perfect, but I don't know, what sim is perfect, you know? All right, and heading, still good. Get rid of that. So as we cross over this point right here, the airspeed that we want did drop to 240, and we're still descending pretty sharply. And what that means is we're not going to bleed off any airspeed. So I did throw the brakes on, so we can both continue descending and lose speed, right? Because it's thermodynamics. You can do one or the other. If you're descending, you're not going to be slowing down. You're going to be either maintaining your speed or accelerating. Oh, we don't want that. Yeah, Idaho's, I think it's a really good looking DLC. I think SCS, every DLC gets better, in my opinion. I think they learn more and more, and they just find better and better ways to continue to improve the quality of the sim and the quality of the DLC. It's so much better than base map. When you look at the original California, and Arizona, and Nevada, I believe, and compare it to Idaho. It's just night and day. All right. So we've got another deceleration point right here, and when we get there, I will extend the flaps for the first time. That will drop our target airspeed down to around 200 knots, and we can get ready to land. And I will hand fly the landing. I find that's best. I mean, the plane will technically land itself. What fun is that? But it will also take you all the way down, just about to the piano keys, and then when you get there, you click off the autopilot and fly the last 10 feet yourself. I'd rather fly the last, call it 5 miles myself. It's not always a perfect landing, but right, it's a flight sim. I don't want the software to fly us all the way to the ground. Let me take care of the last part. All right, everything's good. Everything's good. I'm trying to think. Oh, hang on. 3027. I always forget something. 3027 on the altimeter, and we want our decision height to be. I should have put this in a long time ago, by the way. I think I should have put that in France. I should have put that in Nice, and I forgot. I always forget something. I think if I used the checklist more, I would. I'd be better with that stuff. Yay! Prepared land. Right. Good there. As soon as we make this next turn, we will get some lights on. Flip everything over to ILS. And fly this last little bit. I'm curious how far down these clouds go. I mean, I can fly the flight director all the way down till we pop out of the clouds, but when it happens just a couple hundred feet above the runway, it is always so unnerving for me. Like, genuinely terrifying. Because it's just a wall of white. You can't see anything. And then all of a sudden there's the runway lights and the PAPI. So we'll see. Take this down to 4,000. Yep, curious what happens with these clouds. All right, there's that. Speed is good. And yeah, about 15 miles from the airport, but we do have just this little bit of overcast. So we'll make our turn here, and then this is when things really start happening quickly. Right, flaps. Between the clouds and the nighttime. We should have left, probably 30 minutes earlier. We might still have a little bit of kind of residual sunset, just enough to sort of see the world around us. But with these clouds, maybe not. All right, landing lights on. All right, we're all good there. Gear down. ILS over there. EVIS mode, nav frequency disagree. I don't think so. And that's correct. EVIS mode, nav mode. 110.75. I mean, I'm just going to fly the ILS, like I said, to about 5 miles, and then we'll take over and do the rest. Fly it by hand, so I'm not terribly worried about that, but I am curious where we get those mismatches. All right, put it on the localizer. More flaps. Turn these off. Nerve-wracking. 10 miles. Gears down and locked. Flaps good. Engine's good. Lights good. Everything's good. All right. We'll just, I know you can't see a whole lot, but we'll just continue flying the flight director. And see when we come out of this overcast. I suspect it's going to be late. Like, oh God. Like really, really low and late. There's 9 miles. Eight miles. Something's happening right now. Not very happy about it. All right, we were just below glide slope, so the engine spooled way up and really scared the hell out of me. There's 7 miles. Continuing to descend. On glide slope, well, just about. Oh God, all right, out of the overcast. There's 6 miles. Just about out of the overcast. One more cloud to go through. We're on 5 miles. There we go. There's the runway. All right. Well, that's 5 miles, so I'm going to turn off the auto throttle. Right? And then turn off the autopilot and fly it in. Here we go. I'm not going to be able to talk as we do this.
Stabilized, Mr. Birch, altitude set.
Approaching 3, 4.
Approaching minimums. 500 minimums. 400. 300. 200.
There you go. Welcome to Zurich. Oh. The stress. Oh, the stress. Oh, let's get slowed down here. 80 knots. All right.
4,000 feet remaining.
I'm going to pull off on this taxiway here,
3,000
and because we don't have
remaining.
ATC, and because we don't have ATC and there's really no place for us to specifically go, we'll just call it right here. But yeah, that's X-Plane. This is the video I wanted to make 2 days ago. We didn't quite make it to Zurich, but we made it this time, so good on us. All right, so we'll pull it right in there. I'm going to set the brake, if I can find it in the dark. Turn off the landing lights. Turn on some lights inside here. There we go. And that's it. There you have it. Oh. I need to drink some water. All right. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. See you tomorrow. We'll do some cattle and crops. And then from there, we'll go to Colorado. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Take care. Hey, thanks, Fried. See you soon.